I did something that most would consider the nuclear option. I exposed my in-laws for exactly who they were: manipulative, conniving, and desperate to tear my marriage apart. And the silence that followed? Priceless. Here's how it started. I'm Sarah, and until recently, I was married to a man named Mark. Mark was a good man, kind and loving, but unfortunately, he came with a baggage set of a mother and father who thought I was never good enough for their precious son. It wasn't a subtle disapproval either. From day one, they made it their mission to undermine our relationship, planting seeds of doubt and discord whenever they got the chance. To understand this, you need to understand Patricia and Richard, Mark's parents. Patricia, the matriarch, a woman who always got her way, she had this way of making you feel like you were always falling short, that you were somehow less than. Richard, the silent enabler, always nodding along to Patricia's schemes, never daring to challenge her. Rewind 3 years. Mark and I were blissfully in love, planning our wedding. That's when the subtle jabs started. "Are you sure you can afford this venue, dear?" Patricia would ask, a sweet smile masking her venom. "Mark deserves the best, you know." What she didn't know was that I had a trust fund my grandmother had left me, a fact I intentionally kept hidden, and it was growing every year. The wedding went ahead, beautiful and joyous, despite Patricia's best efforts to sabotage it. But the real trouble started after we said "I do." The constant unsolicited advice, the criticisms of my cooking, my housekeeping, my career, it was relentless. They would show up at our house unannounced, rearranging furniture and offering helpful suggestions. Patricia even suggested that I quit my job as a software engineer to focus on being a proper wife to Mark. Can you believe that? A proper wife in the 21st century? Mark, bless his heart, tried to mediate, but he was so used to their behavior that he didn't always recognize the extent of their manipulation. He'd say, "They just care about us, Sarah. Try to be understanding." I tried. Believe me, I really did. But their caring felt more like control. One evening, Patricia called, her voice dripping with concern. "Sarah, dear, I'm worried about Mark. He seems so stressed lately. Are you sure you're supporting him enough?" I bit my tongue, refusing to rise to the bait. "Mark is doing fine, Patricia. We're both very happy." "Are you sure? Because Richard and I were talking, and we think Mark deserves someone who can truly dedicate themselves to his happiness." I wanted to scream. Instead, I politely ended the call. But here's the thing. I'm not one to back down from a challenge. I started documenting everything. Every snide comment, every manipulative phone call, every unsolicited visit. I kept a detailed log, knowing that one day I might need it. I started recording their voicemails and saving their emails. What my in-laws didn't know was that I was building a case to expose their lies and protect my marriage. Then came the turning point. Mark came home one day looking defeated. "My parents think we should separate, Sarah," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "They say we're not compatible, that I deserve someone better." My blood ran cold. I had known they were working on him, but I hadn't realized how successful they had been. "And what do you think, Mark?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me, his eyes filled with confusion and doubt. I don't know, Sarah." Maybe they're right. That was it. That was the moment I decided to fight back with everything I had. The gloves were off. I would protect my marriage. It started subtly. I started mirroring their behavior, just to make Mark understand the absurdity of it all. When Patricia criticized my cooking, I started critiquing her gardening. When Richard offered unsolicited financial advice, I questioned his investment strategies. Mark started to see the light, slowly but surely. But then they escalated. One day, Mark's sister, Emily, let something slip during a family dinner. Emily, who never wanted any part of her parents' plans. Mom and Dad have been talking to a divorce lawyer, she confessed, her face pale. They think it's the only way to save Mark from you. Boom! They were actively plotting to dissolve my marriage. I couldn't believe it. The rage inside me was unlike anything I had felt before. I gathered all my evidence, the recordings, the emails, the detailed log. I compiled it into a comprehensive document, a testament to their years of manipulation and deceit. Then I wrote a letter addressed to every member of the family, Mark's siblings, his aunts, his uncles, his cousins. In it, I laid out everything, their lies, their schemes, their attempts to control Mark's life. I attached the evidence, leaving no room for doubt. I sent the letter via certified mail. If stories like this keep you on the edge of your seat, hit subscribe. I drop a new one every single day. The following week was agonizing. The rest of the family was in shock, divided between disbelief and outrage. Patricia and Richard, of course, denied everything, but the evidence was irrefutable. Then came Thanksgiving, the annual family gathering. This year, it was hosted at Mark's eldest sister's house. I almost didn't go. I really almost didn't, but I knew I had to show everyone that I wasn't backing down. We arrived, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. Patricia and Richard were there, their faces etched with anger and resentment. Mark's siblings avoided eye contact. The air crackled with unspoken accusations. During dinner, Patricia stood up, her voice trembling with indignation. "I don't know what lies Sarah has told you all," she said, "but I want you to know that Richard and I have always had Mark's best interests at heart." That's when I stood up. "Is that so, Patricia?" I said, my voice calm and steady. "Because I have here copies of emails where you discussed hiring a private investigator to dig up dirt on me." I held up the document. "I also have recordings of your phone calls where you badmouthed me to Mark's friends and colleagues." The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Patricia's face turned white. Richard stared at his plate, speechless. "But here's the best part," I continued, my voice rising. "I have a copy of the draft divorce papers you had drawn up, ready to spring on Mark when you thought you had him convinced." I slammed the document on the table. "So tell me again, Patricia, how you have Mark's best interests at heart." Patricia sputtered, trying to find an explanation, but the words caught in her throat. Richard finally spoke, his voice barely audible. "We just wanted him to be happy," he mumbled. "Happy or under your control?" I retorted. "You've spent years trying to manipulate Mark, trying to turn him against me. But you failed, because Mark is not a puppet. He's a grown man who can make his own decisions." I looked at Mark, who was staring at his parents with a mixture of disbelief and anger. "And Mark," I said, my voice softening, "I love you, and I will always fight for you, for us." Mark stood up and walked over to me, taking my hand. "I love you too, Sarah," he said, his voice firm, "and I'm done letting my parents control my life." We walked out of that house, hand in hand, leaving Patricia and Richard to face the consequences of their actions. The family fractured. Some sided with Mark and me, disgusted by Patricia and Richard's behavior. Others remained loyal to the parents, unwilling to believe the truth. Mark and I went to couples therapy, and he set firm boundaries with his parents, limiting contact and refusing to discuss our personal life with them. It was a difficult process, but we emerged stronger than ever. As for Patricia and Richard, they lost a lot that day. They lost their son's trust, they lost the respect of their family, and they lost the control they had so desperately clung to. Richard spent his days in the garden, unable to face his friends. Patricia spent her days trying to phone Mark, only to be hung up on. Their carefully constructed world crumbled around them. Mark and I moved to a new city, started fresh. It wasn't easy, but we built a life of our own, free from their interference. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. Was exposing them to the entire family the right thing to do? Then I remember the years of manipulation, the constant undermining, the active plot to destroy my marriage. And I know that I did what I had to do to protect myself and my relationship. Do you think exposing them to the whole family was justified, or should I have handled it differently? I genuinely want to know. Tomorrow, I'm telling you about the time my neighbor tried to claim my property as his own, and how I used an ancient law to turn his life upside down.